This Quickness DPS Ritualist build for Guild Wars 2 PvE group scenarios is extremely fun and currently reaches over 52k DPS with the current balance before the mid of December 2025 Visions of Eternity Elite spec nerf. But even after the nerfs, this will be a very, very strong build. I'm Summer, and as always, special thanks to all my dear supporters that help me keep the lights on. But now, without much further ado, let's jump straight in and let's give credits where credits are due and say this build is originally by Snowcrows and Ceruleus. So credits for coming up with the build and the rotation. I just want to promote this amazing build and explain every single detail to it. Link to the website and the channel in the description down below. With that much said, let's jump straight in and start with the gear. The gear is really straightforward. You want to go for full Berserker gear with Superior Rune of the Dragon Hunter for the maximum amount of damage. For infusions, if you can afford them, you would go full power damage infusions. In my setup, link to it is of course in the description down below, exotic and ascended version. To reach exactly 75% crit rate, you also have to go with an assassin helmet and an assassin back piece. You can min-max with the infusion a bit more, but I think that is the easiest to acquire away without having to invest into stat infusions. Then for weapons, you would go with Spear and Greatsword. Again, full Berserker. For sigils, you would go with Force and Accuracy sigil on both weapon sets. For the trinkets, also full Berserker, but like I said, in my setup, full Berserker with one assassin back piece and one assassin helmet. For the relic, you would go with Relic of the Claw. It's just a permanent 7% damage buff in this rotation. If you cannot get that one, Relic of Fireworks is completely fine as well. Or Relic of Thief even. Now let's talk about the consumables quickly. For the consumables, you want to go with Cilantro Lime Sweet Steaks for the chance to steal life on critical hit and have power and ferocity, just really, really nice. If you cannot afford ascended food or don't have it yet, you can go for bowls of sweet and spicy butternut squash soup, almost the same damage, a little bit easier to get. And then you have Superior Sharpening Stones for the utility consumables or something that gives similar amounts of power. For the traits, you want to go with Spite, Soul Reaping and Ritualist. Spite gives you a lot of power damage multipliers, so you get more damage and more might generation. Not that important because you're after all always having enough might in a group scenario, but you deal 10% more damage against boonless foes, typically should be always the case. Then you get more power from might, really nice, you're after all a power build. And then you take Close to Death for a big 20% damage increase if the target is below 50%. Really, really straightforward. Soul Reaping gives you a lot of life force generation, which is really important because you want to spam your life force and your shroud skills very hard. So more life force generation. Shroud skills get less recharge, really nice. And maximum life force is increased even better. Then your Shroud skill 1 inflicts vulnerability. Okay, nice to stack it up a bit more, but you can also go for any of those. Typically, I would say Speed of Shadows if you really want to get some Chronic Lens and some Swiftness uptime, but everything could work here. It's not like important for the build damage output. Then you have Soul Barbs, just a 10% damage buff all the time with you if you follow the rotation by entering and exiting Shroud. And then you have Death Perception, just more crit chance and more crit damage while you're in Shroud, even better, just more stats. Then you have Ritualist. Ritualist gives you access to your boons, really important, and makes this gameplay very fun and interactive. I would say very nice fluid rotation. So you get some more concentration and some life force when you summon a creature, really nice. So a spirit or a minion. Then you get some passive life force when you use the Innovate skills, which will give some nice fury and might to allies, or inflict some fear, or will give stability, resistance, and ages. So really, really powerful boons for quick DPS guild specifically. So you can just help your allies without having to adjust anything in your build. Then of course you take Explosive Growth. That just means you get more damage when you summon a creature, and you deal some damage around it when you summon it. Okay, quite nice, just more damage. Then you take the important trait for upkeeping quickness. Whenever you summon a spirit, you give some boons depending on what kind of spirit you summon, might, fury, resolution. And you most importantly provide quickness to your allies. Really, really strong. 300 radius, not too big, but you can get some really nice damage and almost have no loss for taking this trait. And then you take Lingering Spirits, which is a really interesting trait. Normally your spirits will die or will leave when you leave Shroud, but now they linger around. And they get a bonus as well. So you get more damage, you get more movement speed and more healing increase while you have the Lingering Spirits. That's quite nice. But most importantly, they stay around and therefore will drain your life force, but you can upkeep the life force quite easily and they will just attack continuously. That is really, really strong. So you get just some passive damage from them while you're even not in Shroud. So really, really nice. So we already talked a bit about the skills. So let's cover the skills in Shroud. So the auto attack is just applying some nice damage. And it does more damage if the spirits are also attacking. If you attack with this attack, the target the spirits will also attack the same target. Really nice to focus their attacks. Then the 2 skill is just some nice damage. It always does an initial attack, so this 2, 3, and 4 are summons of your spirits. The initial attack does some damage, and also the attack of the spirit will also deal some damage here. Just really, really nice damage. Just even more damage if there are a lot of conditions or the foe is controlled, just even more damage. And after that, it will just do some damaging auto attack. Then the 3 skill is some nice CC, it does also some damage, and you can also always use it in the rotation, of course. And you have to use them once to get access to innovate skills. Keep that in mind. So F2 is related to 2, F3 is related to 3, and F4 is related to 4 skill. The 4 skill is some nice healing and provides some boons, and is a big Condi cleanse as well. This is a very interesting skill because it can also heal you while you are in Shroud. Normally you would not receive any healing while in Shroud because you are tanking your life force instead, but this one will also heal you if you are in Shroud. And the 5 skill is a nice teleport that also does an attack depending on what kind of spirits you have up. So they will nice CC, they do a projectile destroying bubble and deal a lot of damage. So always use that in the rotation to upkeep the damage. But if you know there will be a projectile incoming that you can block, always save that, of course, because you're after all a support as well. And then of course your spear attacks, just nice auto attack. The 2 skill is some heavy damage that also does some nice lifesteal. The 3 skill is some nice CC, which procs your claw relic. The 4 skill is some nice teleport if you hit it with the first attack and then can reactivate it to teleport and resets your 2 skill. And it will also reset when you leave Shroud. So it's a really nasty attack and this is really helpful to do that. And the 5 skill is some nice boon removal, provides some boons and a lot of damage. On Greatsword you have a decent auto attack, quite slow. Then you have a Gravedigger, which is really important because it does some nice damage, and if its target is below 50%, it will instantly reset, so you can use that off cooldown. Really nice damage. The 3 skill provides some nice life force and does some nice damage, really good skill. 4 skill is a boon conversion and is a nice damaging field, and also inflicts blinds that can be really good in fractals, for example, to blind trash mobs. And then the 5 skill is a nice pull and provides some life force as well and procs your claw relic. So really nice synergies already. For your utility and healing skills, you would go with Resilient Weapon because you share some nice healing to your allies and heal yourself, really good. And to some other stats, but typically it's more for the healing that you take that. Then you have Splinter Weapon, just more damage. And Nightmare Weapon, even more damage in like really, really short cast times. You activate it and provide some damage to yourself and your allies, really good. And then some passive power from Signet of Spite. You could easily replace Signet of Spite, for example, if you need more CC, projectile block with Corrosive Poison Cloud, some Epidemic if you really wanted to. You can get some block for your allies and yourself and a stun break with Weapon of Warding. You can go Spectral Grasp for pulling targets, or you can go for Flash Worm for teleporting. There are a lot of synergies and stuff that you could adjust. I would say that's just the best damaging setup. And then you have Summon Flash Golem for a nice CC when you use the charged command, or you can use a Lich Form for a burst damage increase, but the Flash Golem is typically the, I would say, recommended way to playing it. And now let's talk about the rotation. Of course, you want to start with the opener on Greatsword, use your Splinter Weapon into Nightmare Weapon and Grasping Darkness, and enter the Ritualist route, where you instantly use Anguish into Wanderlust and Preservation, use your Essence Blast 3 times typically, and then use your Summon Spirits into another 3 times of Essence Blasting, and then use Anguish. And if you want, you can stay around for 2 more auto attacks and then leave Shroud. Then you use Nightfall into Death Spiral into Gravedigger and Weapon Swap, and then you use your Spear Loop. The Spear Loop is almost more like a priority attack. You should always use your 2, 3, 4, and 5 of cooldown. However, try to use your Isolate, so your 4 skill, only if the 2 skill is off cooldown, but you can also use it before you casted the 2 skill, use 2 skill, and then you have a second to reactivate the 4 skill to actually do the 2 again. In general, there are a lot of different combinations here, but just use the attacks off cooldown. If you want to have a very detailed breakdown out of what the spear priority list is, be sure to check out the Snowcrow's website or the video linked in the description down below for the perfect rotation. On Greatsword, you also have a priority list, but in general, again, Gravedigger and Nightfall are very important over Death Spiral, and then other than that, you would use the other attacks and the auto attack to fill. The Shroud is very important because that is the thing. When you enter Shroud, you always want to use Anguish into Wanderlust and Preservation, exactly like in the opener, and then use your auto attack 3 times until you summon Spirits, then another 3 auto attacks into Anguish, and then exit. You should always enter the Shroud with high priority and don't interrupt the other attacks. Be careful to not use the Summoning Spirits 5 skill in Shroud when you directly summon the spirit, because then it will not get the quickness of it again. Keep that in mind, so delay it a bit. In general, the loop is very simple. You want to use the spear attacks, then weapon swapping to greatsword, and then using your shroud, and then weapon swapping back from greatsword to spear and using the shroud again. And use Innervate Wanderlust or all Innervate skills to get the boons and stuff out. Use Innervate Wanderlust specifically to upkeep the Claw Relic. And other than that, you should try to never run out of life force, because it's really important to upkeep your damage. That is the whole build and the rotation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. Credits again to Snowcross for the original build. I just want to promote it. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.